Brought to you by Basecamp Ed. I'm Morgan, your host of the Homeschool Curious podcast. Whether you're deep in the homeschooling world or just starting to get curious, I'm here to bring you inspiring conversations with parents, educators, and business owners navigating the wild, wonderful world of parenting. Let's get curious together. On today's episode, I'm thrilled to introduce Raven Kramer, a Tampa Bay-based content creator with nearly 220,000 Instagram followers and a proud mom of 4. Raven is a leading voice in the unschooling and homeschooling movement, sharing relatable insights on motherhood, homeschooling, and exploring Florida's family-friendly gems. Her own tough childhood shaped how she raised her kids and built a rock-solid family unit. Passionate about community, she co-founded Wild School of Tampa Bay in 2020, a child-led nature co-op that sparks hands-on learning and outdoor exploration. I started Basecamp Ed to build a community for working parents like me, who homeschool through moves every 2 years. Raven and I share the same mission. With a strong support system, you can have it all: a thriving career and staying home with your kids. Today's episode is sponsored by Basecamp Ed, a community building app that is free for parents to find local, like-minded families, dedicated teachers, and educational resources. Connect with parents to form your own co-ops, playdates, or groups. Need a math tutor or a sports coach? Teachers can list their credentials. There is also a business platform to discover game-changing educational brands. Take control of your child's educational journey. Visit their website at basecamped.com or download it in the App Store. Homeschooling was never meant to be done alone. It takes a village. Build it with Basecamp Ed. On today's episode, we have Raven Kramer, and I am so excited to jump in with her. But before we do, I just wanted you, Raven, to give a quick introduction about yourself and your family.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Raven. I'm the Unschooling Homeschooler on Instagram. I've been homeschooling my kids for 5 years. I have always homeschooled. My kids have never been in public school. Actually, when my husband and I first met, we knew we wanted to homeschool, so that's just always been a desire of our heart. We've tried to always structure our family in that way. And I co-founded Wild School of Tampa Bay, which is a co-op here in Tampa Bay where anyone can host events all over Tampa Bay. Kids being kids outside in nature makes the world a better place. And I also say a lot, kids being kids outside in nature is just as important, if not more important, than a math lesson, especially in the elementary school ages.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I actually first connected through Instagram. And even like before I started Basecamp Ed, I followed you like on my personal Morgan account. And you probably popped up naturally because you also are a big advocate, especially with young boys, but also girls getting outside, playing. Like that is the best way to learn. And you probably just naturally came up in my algorithm because I have 3 boys and I am pregnant with our 4th. And when I started Basecamp Ed, like before the app was even in the app store, I messaged you and I was like, she's probably far reach. She probably won't respond to me. But like everything that you stand for about community and co-ops and homeschooling and being outside in nature and using community to lean on them, I was like, she is my perfect advocate. And you responded so fast to me. And I just feel like you've been almost like a big sister to me in homeschooling and teaching me stuff on Instagram. So I really appreciate like the partnership that we have as well.
Yes, totally. I love that. And I'm so excited for your 4th boy. It's such a blessing.
It is wild. I kind of deep down knew it was going to be a boy, but my husband, he's obviously very excited it's a boy, but he really like desperately wants a daughter too. So I felt like the day we found out it was a boy, I could tell deep down he was a little bummed, but I think especially because I think I'm done after 4. He's like, can we just do 5? And I'm like, because we're gonna have 5 boys then. Like, I just don't see a girl in our future. But you have 3 boys and then you got your girl, right?
Yes, although hilariously, I was not trying for a girl because a lot of people ask me that. They're like, "Did you keep going to get the girl?" I was like, "No, I was so content having all boys because you're in it. You the testosterone's high, everyone's running around, you're thriving on the chaos." Like I was used to that boy energy all the time anyways. And I just assumed we had 3 boys. We're just going to keep having boys. And so actually the home birth her. So when I pulled her out of the tub, I was like, is she really a girl? Because I couldn't believe I would actually have a girl. I genuinely thought I'd have all boys. So boys are so special to me. I do love my boys, and they're
Yeah.
wild and free and amazing and like so fun. Girls are fun too. I love my daughter.
No, so from your experience, I know boy energy, and I feel like I was meant to be a boy mom. I am very high energy. I love to go go go. I can pretty much, unless I'm down with the flu like I was last week, I can catch up with them, and I love to play. But do you feel like there is a difference when with raising her, or do you feel like she was born into the boy energy and just matches that?
She is completely different in every way. It's very funny because I do post a lot of boy content about
Yeah.
boys are meant to be boys and they're very different from girls. And having a daughter, she is so radically different from her brothers. And not because she's treated any different, has any less of the boy toys or the boy energy, or like she obviously is surrounded by all boys. You know, she can do things, ride a bike, climb a tree. Like she is definitely a more adventurous girl, but she's still a girl. She still loves Elsa. She still loves dolls. And I never force that upon her. She just naturally was that way. She will sit and color for hours. My boys could never do that. They'd scribble on a page and run away. Like they had no desire to do art. She naturally is inclined to do arts and crafts. She's naturally inclined to just like sit by herself and read a book. And like, so it's very funny when I get people on my page like, my girls are just the same as a boy. And I'm like,
I know, I
they're
see that all
not.
the time. That's
Yeah.
why I had to ask.
No, they're not. They're not at all. And if you had even one boy in your mix, you wouldn't be saying that. Like, or
Or
even
like,
some people, my girl is tougher than my son. That's definitely the outlier. That's I'm not saying
yeah.
that never happens. Of course it does, but that's not the common thing to happen.
Like you said about your daughter coloring, restaurants at this point in my husband and I's life, we have just written off. Like unless
Yeah.
it's a date night for him and I refuse to actually go and pay money and
Yes.
sit at a restaurant because it's miserable. And then I'll look around. For some reason, all of my best girlfriends have girls, not boys. And so like we'll go with them. They are so different. Mine
They're
will
so
not
chill.
even like they won't eat. They won't color at the restaurant. Like it's not enjoyable for anybody involved. So when I see that, I sometimes get like that tinge of jealousy, but I'm like, nope, we're just gonna have a picnic at the park.
It wasn't until my youngest boy was like almost 5 that we could do restaurants. And actually, we only do one restaurant, and it's Olive Garden. And it's because they give you the breadsticks right away. And so my kids will start eating those breadsticks immediately, and everyone there will eat. And I ask the waiters always, I'm like, when their food is ready, bring it. I don't care if our stuff is ready, bring their food right away. And then my husband and I will just eat
Smart.
like pretty fast. So I
Yes.
know how you feel. I know exactly how you
Yes.
feel.
Yep, exactly. Okay, you mentioned your husband in your intro very briefly. You look like you are so in love. I love that. And it looks like you guys just celebrated your was it your 10-year wedding anniversary?
10-year wedding anniversary. We have been married for a decade, and I love him. I want to say more than life itself, but I do love my life. But he is definitely my number one, my best friend, my biggest
I love that.
advocate. I say so often, marriage just gets better and better over time. And we have invested heavily in our marriage. Both my husband and I actually both came from broken homes. So we both came from divorced homes. Neither one of us had seen how like an actual healthy relationship, marriage, or even family should look like. So we really had to navigate and learn that on our own. So the first 5 to 7 years were a real hard learning curve of this is what communication is. This is what a healthy relationship looks like. I have several books kind of I'd recommend for that. One is Connection Codes. One is Keep Your Love On. Another just solid piece of advice would be find mentors. We call them our spiritual parents who have been married for 35 years, I think, maybe 36. They've been married a long time, who we trust and both of us love dearly. And we've gone to in our hardest moments and been like, this is what we're struggling with, who've been able to give us guidance and encouragement and to just come together. And I feel like my husband and I, every single challenge life has thrown at us, and I mean, you're married for 10 years, we have 4 children, we're going to have challenges.
Yeah.
Every single one, we've grown closer instead of growing farther apart. And I think that that's also really important too.
I love that. My husband and I are coming up on 8 years. And when we first got married, I was like, in our 10 years, let's get the place that we got married. We got married on this beautiful riverbend in Colorado, which is where he was stationed in the military back then. And now that that's in 2 years, that just feels way too fast. We need to do that like 20 years. But like when we first got married, 10 years out sounded so far away. And now it's right around the corner. We'll have like a 1 year old. I'll be worried about him falling in the river the whole time.
He'll just be jumping in. He'll be a fourth born.
Yeah. And you mentioned like both of you and your husband come from broken homes, and you're very honest on your Instagram, very real that you and your mom, don't have a close relationship. She was an addict. And so how has that kind of shaped how you are as a mom today?
Oh, both my parents growing up were drug addicts. My dad has been sober now for he is going on his 20th year, but I'm 32. And I didn't actually see him again until I was 18. So I had really
Wow.
no relationship with him. So it's kind of my mom just raising me and um just going through living in an addict's life. You can't understand it until you're in it. It made me want to be the best mom as humanly possible, to
Like the
be the
complete
most
opposite.
involved
Yeah.
mom. Exactly. I wanted to be there for my kids. I wanted to be relational. I didn't want to hold things against them or have resentment towards them, or I wanted them to know that they were safe and they were loved and they were wanted and they belonged in our family and that we are a family unit. I feel like growing up, I didn't feel like I belonged in my family. And so, like,
Yeah.
a big heart of mine is like, I want my kids to always feel like they belong, to always know that they are enough. And not only through my words, but through my actions. And sometimes that means changing the plans or taking them into consideration or, um, maybe someone look at it and be like, oh, you can't reward this type of behavior, which I definitely understand that. And also, I want them to know, like, you're enough. If this is really something hard that you just absolutely cannot, you're freaking out. You do not want to go to the store today. We're gonna change the plans then a little bit. We're gonna, when we can, we're gonna make it so that you know that you are enough just for who you are, regardless of your behavior, regardless of your actions. Like, I'm gonna love you always. So I feel like that's made me want to be like this super involved parent because I did not have that growing.
Yeah. Did you have like siblings that you could lean on growing up? Or like you mentioned you and your husband have like a really good mentor today for marriage, but like did you have something like that that shaped you?
Sadly not. I really acclaim a lot of like my determination in life on my faith in the Lord. I've always had this just fierce determination in life of like I will overcome. It's scientifically proven actually when kids think that they're experiencing hardship, whether they are actually experiencing or not, if they overcome that hardship, it gives them this like laser focus in life. And so actually now that we are in like my family is in a great place, we're very financially stable, my kids are very comfortable, they grew up in a loving home. I've had to wrestle with this. How do you experience kind of a healthy level of discomfort? I don't want to say trauma, but you will have things that disappoint you in life, and that's good because you're going to learn to overcome them.
Right. And you mentioned that you and your husband both knew even before you had kids that you
Yes.
wanted to homeschool them, which is wild, especially because you guys both weren't homeschooled. So, how did you know you wanted to even before you had kids?
So, because to my upbringing, I always knew I wanted a close family unit. I knew that I would always be a stay-at-home mom. And for me, it made sense. The default would be homeschooling. I think a lot of people in American culture, the default is you send your kids to school when they're 5 years old. For
Yep.
me, that was never in my brain system. This is naturally what will happen. No, we're a family. We're going to stay a family unit. And if we need to go a different route, then we can deal with that then. But this is our default because we're going to be a strong family unit.
So, before you had kids, did you have a more traditional career or job?
So I actually, my husband and I met in college. And so we got married in August and I graduated nursing school in December. But my first son was a wedding night baby. So, so I actually hilariously never even worked with my nursing degree. I joke with my husband all the time. I'm like, you had to spend $42,000 to meet me.
Yeah.
Obviously, accumulated some debt. So I actually never worked a nursing job. I
Wow.
did work, in high school. I obviously had to put
Yeah.
myself through college. I paid all my living expenses. So I worked a bunch of odds and ends jobs, but I never had a career before I had kids. Because once I got pregnant, I was like, well, it's stupid to go and find a nursing job. I know I want to stay
Yeah.
home with my baby anyways.
Yeah. Wow, I never knew it was nursing. Like I figured you guys met in college and did that, but I did not know it was nursing. I could have seen you as a
Yeah.
nurse though too. You're
Yeah.
very caring and
Yeah, yeah. It is funny now. And exactly, I think too, when Alex and I first got married, a solid piece of advice that we got was to always structure our life based on one income. And so even when we first got married, we had a very small house. My husband literally made like $20,000 a year. We were so poor. All of our furniture was like side of the road furniture. Like we had nothing new, no new car. We lived very, very, very simply because we always had this mindset of no debt and live within our means and only live off one income.
And I love your guys' love story of building what you have today together. There's so many younger or just graduating women that are like, I need to go and I need to get into my career and I'm not going to get married till I'm 30 and have kids till late 30. And they push everything back with, if you find your person, you do that together. And that was like
Yes.
very similar to like I met my husband when I was 21 who was in the
Okay.
military. I moved every 2 years with him. We very much have built everything that we have together too. And I love those like love stories.
Yes, that's so special.
I want to like turn a little bit and talk about your experience homeschooling. So I'm like new to all the philosophies of homeschooling because like my oldest is 5. There's Charlotte Mason, unschooling, classical. I mean, there's so many. You don't have to label yourself, but like, what are you most comfortable?
That's honestly why I kind of came up with the term the unschooling homeschooler, because back 6 years ago, there were so many different options. And when I was looking at traditional homeschoolers, I was like, I am not this. I am not
Yeah,
scheduled. I am not, we're going to follow every single lesson plan. I'm not, we're doing all 17 subjects in kindergarten. I was like, dude, you just need to be a kid. And that's actually why I want to homeschool. But when I looked also at just a super unschooler and kind of swing the pendulum the other way, I was like, okay, but I'm also not necessarily in the camp of completely like, when you want to read, you'll ask me to read. So I was kind of in this middle spot and I'm like, you know what? I'm a little bit of both. Oh, I actually like the term life schooler a lot more. If I can make that catch on, maybe I'll start using that too.
yeah,
But the
yeah.
unschooling homeschooler is like what I'm kind of titled as now. So,
I know. I feel like
but
you like coined that as your term.
exactly. So, I'm kind of my foot in both worlds because
Yeah,
I believe kids should be outside 5 hours a day. Like they should be playing. And that is so much enough learning, like 99% of the time. I do want them to read, write, and know
yeah,
math really, really well. Have like a
yeah.
strong base foundation in that. So when my kids are like in first grade, I'm like, okay, let's learn to read. Let's learn to write. I do use a math curriculum, but I use it as far more of a guide than like we are doing like this lesson today, this lesson tomorrow. And it's like, okay, if you get this and you can get it through the first time, great, and we can move on quickly. If not, we're gonna stay on this. Like my first son gets things real fast. He can fly through stuff. My second son needs a lot more time. So he actually finished a unit in math just recently. I was like, you don't really know this that well. You still could use some practice. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna take some extra time. I'll make you worksheets. I can find worksheets online and we're gonna keep messing with this instead of like, oh, we got to push through and do the curriculum in this amount of time. If we sit down, and they're like, for handwriting today, I want to write a story about Pokemon. I'm like, cool. I'm not like, we're going to sit and work through this handwriting book and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, no, no.
Yeah.
So much of life and normal life or your interests, like passion led interests. I'm a big advocate for interest led learning, which is like my kids, what they love. That's what we structure our learning around, which
I love
right
that.
now is an obscene amount of Pokemon. We have Pokemon stories, Pokemon
Does
math,
that mean
Pokemon
that's in my
games.
future too as a boy
Yes.
mom? Because I don't know
Yes.
anything about Pokemon.
Yes, it's very big. At least with
Okay.
my kids and all their friends. So big fans of Pokemon. And to be fair, it's nostalgic for me. So I'm like, oh, I could get into this.
What grade are your two older boys?
So it's so funny when people ask that too.
Or yeah,
Exactly.
what
I'm like,
grade? Or
okay,
like
technically they are in like second grade and fourth grade, but
okay.
my older son is probably at like a fifth or sixth grade reading level, and he's just finishing up the last half of his third grade math. My second son is in the end of his second grade math, but he's probably more of like a high level first grader in his reading stuff. So, but when people ask what grade are they in, I'm like, they're in second and fourth grade, but
Yeah.
they're, learning curriculum, they're all over the place.
And that's what's so cool about homeschooling. You were mentioning
Yes.
your son's struggling in math, but he's a really strong reader. When you're in a normal traditional school, like you just have to fit with the norm of what they do this year and what they do next year. And it's like, no, if you want to do fourth grade level this and second grade level that, like you can do that. If you tailor and customize, that was something that was so attractive to me because I went to traditional school. If you asked me a couple of years ago if I was going to homeschool my kids, I would have said no. And then one day I just randomly asked my husband, what do you think about it? And he was like, I was thinking about it too. And I never brought it up to you because I thought you would be like, hell no. And then it just kind of snowballed until now me trying to be the biggest advocate, do it. And I
I
haven't
love
even, I
that.
had never even done it before.
I love that so much.
So the unschooling worry, especially when kids are a little bit older, is the lack of structure. Do you feel like it might have to change or evolve as those, especially your two older ones, are getting a little bit older? Or do you feel like you're going to kind of keep this structure going while it works.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep it while it works. And I think too, as my kids are getting older, they're wanting to do more things. And it's like, well, if you want to do this, here are the 3 steps before that. They actually just the other day were like, what do you think our first jobs will be? And I'm like, my first job was McDonald's. Everyone should work in the service industry so you have an understanding of how to treat other human beings. So I was like,
100%.
Publix, it's a grocery store here.
Yep.
I was like, but you'd have to make sure that you could ride your bikes there. You'd have to, fill out the paperwork. Oh, they're so sweet. They're already like, how old are we when we can get married? And they're already thinking about their own
Oh,
families and their own lives. And so it's like, well, technically you have to be 18 to get married, but you are a man. And so you need to have a stable career. You need to have a home. Like you need to, so there are steps, like they have this vision. And as they see the steps to get to the vision, they're going to want to do those steps because they have the vision.
yeah. Have they ever, especially the older ones, start to question, like, why are we homeschooled? Or have they ever wanted to try or go to traditional school?
No, and it's actually very funny because on our block there are I think 12 kids in total. So mine are 4 of those 12, but every other kid on this block is traditional public school. I think actually 2 go
Yeah.
to private school. But
Yeah.
they go to a traditional school. They all hate it. Every single one of those kids has told my kids, I wish my parents would homeschool me. We even
Oh,
have one of my best friends sends her kids to one of the best private schools you can get into in Pinellas County. And her kids have said to my kids, well, you're so lucky you're homeschooled. I don't get to play all day. I don't get to spend time with my parents. I don't get to do this. And
oh,
so
yeah.
I've never been like, oh, public school is this horrible place. They understand though that the kids leave at 8 a.m. and they don't get home till 3:30 p.m. They understand that, hey, their days are a lot longer. They've heard firsthand of like, we wish our parents were homeschoolers. We don't like school. We don't. So they've sadly, not from me, but from their neighborhood peers have only seen traditional school in a negative way. And so they have never asked, they have never wanted to go. Actually, it's kind of funny because now, like, if we're at a zoo or something and they see the school coming, they're like, oh, those poor kids who only get to come like once in a while. I'm like, exactly.
But
It's
you
so
have the
funny.
membership and go like once a month.
Exactly, exactly. So they see the freedom and they appreciate that. And it's actually funny too, even my kids seeing me as an entrepreneur owning my own business versus my husband works, I would say a traditional 9 to 5, but even his job, he's got a lot of freedom and flexibility. They're like, well, we want to do what mom does. We want to be able to only work a few hours a day and be able to spend time with our families. Yes, they have a little bit less structured of a life, but I live an unstructured life and I'm considered a successful human being, so
Yeah.
I don't think we need that rigid structure. And I don't, like me, I don't think all of us are created for that rigid structure. Like I could never work a desk job 9 to 5. Like I would be the worst employee ever.
Is that what your husband does? Does he have to go into an office or can he work remote?
No, he does work from home. Exactly. So my husband works
Nice.
from home.
Yeah.
I actually call him like the OG. He worked from home before COVID. Actually, when we moved to Florida in 2019, he started working from home and he's always loved it. He like right now he went to the chiropractor. Sometimes for his lunch, he goes to the gym. He doesn't have to clock in necessarily always those 8 hours. He has a lot of flexibility in his job too.
Yeah. That's amazing. So obviously you have your Instagram, but you mentioned it very briefly in your intro. It's called Wild School Tampa Bay. Tell me a little bit about that too.
Yes. So during actually the pandemic, my friend and I were part of Free Forest School. But in 2020, when everything shut down, Free Forest School shut down as well. And my friend and I were like, we live in Florida, so it's really nice out all year round. And we were like, man, kids still need to be outside. Like, no, this like isn't. It's not going to be good for them all to be inside all the time. And we're like, well, what if we just started our own Free Forest School here? We just want to get our kids outside. We still think that this is important. We still think this is really necessary. We're just going to make our own group and we'll be outside and we'll just invite friends as, we meet people and see fit. And what started with 2 people is now almost 5,000 people all over Tampa
Wow.
Bay. We have 2 also sister co-ops that are like just outside of Tampa Bay because even there are people who, live an hour and a half away who have driven to our meetups because they don't have anything like that there. So then they started making their own, wild schools. So that's been really cool too. And Wild School of Tampa Bay, like I said, Every single person in the group is welcome to host events. You can host anywhere in Tampa Bay. And it's just the goal is to get kids being kids outside in nature. There's no lesson plans, there's no formal anything, no structure. Actually, the point is that there is no structure so that the kids can just be allowed to be kids and have free play outside because that is so quickly diminishing in our culture. And we're seeing so many negative side effects from that. Astronomical amounts of it's horrible for their social health, their mental health, their emotional health, their physical health. We're just seeing the social statistics in childhood tanking because the average kid is only spending 4 to 7 minutes outside, whereas the average Wild School Tampa Bay kid is outside 3 to 4 hours a day.
Yeah. You see those numbers, or you see kids only have recess for 30 minutes. Sad to me to
Yes.
think that. When the pandemic hit and then everybody else had to start homeschooling, was that a really weird year?
I feel like we in Florida lived a very different pandemic life than the
Yeah,
average
that's
American.
very,
Florida was very free. We did kind of technically only shut down for 2 weeks. And since we have so many outside avenues, like there were still places to go, there were still things to do. And even when we were shut down, it was for 2 weeks. Whereas our whole family is based in Chicago, they were shut down for 2 years. They did not have public parks, public pools, things like that. I can't imagine having lived through that. Florida was a very,
yeah.
very different space to live. Very different
So
space.
the schools kind of remained open. Like the parents didn't have to stay at homeschool their kids.
And I'm trying to remember because they definitely, exactly, from March through the end of that year, because the pandemic started in March through the end of that year. But
Yeah,
that was what, March, April, May, June.
that's
So
like a
yeah,
month or two.
for
Yeah,
4 months they were. And I always tell people, like, they're like, oh, we tried homeschooling during the pandemic. It didn't work for us. I'm like, that was not homeschooling. That was you were required for your child to be on a screen for 8 hours a day.
yeah.
That's ridiculous. No child is going to learn that way.
No one is. You were saying your husband doesn't even want to sit still for 8 or 9 hours, and you can't either. And some of them were very close friends of mine who have this very negative connotation of what homeschool is. And I was like, that is not homeschooling. That was like not what it's supposed to be. But then that's what they picture homeschooling to be like.
Feel the biggest myth I still get is, but your kids won't be socialized. Well, they're going to miss out on things. And I'm like, my kids are the most social children you will ever meet. And actually, I mean, the social statistics now also back this up. Homeschool kids are
Yeah,
actually more socialized than their public school peers, mostly because number one, they have more avenues to socialize. And number two, they're able to socialize with kids of all ages and adults of all ages. Like my son, who is 9, can walk. Actually, he just did this last week. He rode his bike to the fish market. He bought 3 potatoes that we needed for dinner that night. He paid the man, talked to the man, looked the guy in the eye, and rode his bike home. Like, there are some teenagers right now who cannot do that, who cannot function in
yeah,
society right now
yeah.
because of so much anxiety, depression, et cetera, et cetera. We're seeing all the mental health things going on in public schools right now. Homeschoolers aren't facing that pressure.
It honestly just bothers me at this point.
Yeah.
How do you even actually think that they're just sitting around a table and not socializing? Like you said, they're life schooling. They're going to the market with
Yes.
us and they have to help pay. And even like my 3 and 5 year old who are very little, if an adult talks to you, this is how you talk back to them. And I'm already setting it now because they're shy, or someone will be like, hi, Liam. And he'll start to hide his face. And I'm like, no, you need to look them in the eye and say hello back. And the adult's like, oh, don't worry. I'm like, no, he needs to do it.
Exactly. No, I'm the exact same way. And it's funny because definitely personality wise, I have kids who are more inclined to do that. And I have kids who are a little
Yeah.
more shy. And I'm like, this is just kindness. Like everyone deserves to be
Yeah.
looked in the eye. Everyone deserves to be
Yeah.
talked to kindly, to be treated with respect because we're all human beings.
So many of my listeners are homeschool curious. Maybe they've thought about it, they haven't committed to it yet. Maybe they both are dual working parents or single. What advice would you give, especially to a mom who maybe either wants to continue working or has to continue working, but knows like deep down she wants to homeschool? How can you do it?
Yeah, there are definitely so many ways now to homeschool. Like, number one, most learning is going to take you 2 hours at the most. When your kids are younger, it's going to take you even less. So even if you still needed to work this traditional 9 to 5 job, 100%. You can still fit those 2 hours in. You would have to work opposite shifts of your spouse. I do have a single mom friend who works, who is the most incredible person I know. She doesn't work a standard 9 to 5, but she does have a good community, a good support group. That's why I love Basecamp Ed. You can build and
Yep.
find your community to find people to help and support you of like, hey, I'm working Tuesday, Thursday, 9 to 5, but can you take my kids then? And then I have the kids Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You cover math and science, I'll cover reading and writing. There's so many different ways to work it. So a lot of learning you can do in 2 hours or less. Even middle school ages is 3 hours. And by the time your kids are in middle school, oh my goodness, like they can self-direct a lot of their learning. High school can be a lot of self-directed learning. Obviously, you're going to have to
Yeah.
sit down and teach them calculus if your kid wants to pursue and learn calculus. But you can also outsource a lot of things. Like I already even outsource, like my kids do an English and a history pod with one of my best friends and her sons. And so 2 hours Mondays and Tuesdays, they're at pod, they're at their little
I
homeschool
love
thing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. There are so many different co-ops out there. There are co-ops where yes, you can be involved, but there are also drop-off co-ops where you can literally
Yeah.
go and take your kid once a week and drop them off for 8 hours a day. I'm obviously a big advocate for you can also just grow and own your own business. You can also live life on your own terms. Yes, that's going to take a little more time, a little more intentionality. But there are so many different jobs now that you can do from home, working on your own time that are not going to maybe take that 9 to 5. But if you have to work that 9 to 5, find a community, use Basecamp
Yep.
Ed, find
I love
co-ops.
your plug-in.
It's
I
great.
promise everybody I did not tell her to say that.
No, but it's so true and it's so helpful. And that's why I've loved your app because I'm like, this is literally
Yeah.
what people need and what is such an incredible resource to be able to build community because so many people don't know how. Maybe they're afraid to get out there. But I feel like your app does a really good job of doing that. So, exactly. I was not asked to say that. It's just genuinely, as someone who's like, I built a community of 5,000 people, this is a good way to do it.
Yeah. And that was literally me before you said all that, that I thought that I would have to be at home with the kids all day. It's all on me. And I like to work. If I told my husband today, hey, I don't want to work anymore, I want to stay home with the kids, he'd be like, fine. And yes, our lifestyle would have to switch a little bit, but he could support the family. But I want to work. That is my personality. My mom worked and is still wanting to work and is in her like early 60s. That is just what I am used to. And so when I started doing research, I didn't know about all of those drop off co-ops or just using community. There's so many resources out there. Truly was what inspired me. Like, I'm like, okay, I can do this. It's not this all consuming, all or nothing, quit my job and never work again type of thing.
Yeah, my husband and I do it. Like I said, I own my own business. I work probably 3 hours a day. Usually I'll do 1 hour before after my kids go to bed. And then my kids have in the middle of the day, we do 1 hour of quiet time every day. Doesn't have to be quiet, but the point is not the goal. It's the point. And I reinforce this hard. We have this strict routine. They play for 1 hour without me getting involved. If I have to get involved, I
Yeah.
have 5 minutes to your quiet time. And my
Yeah.
kids are only 9, 7, 5, and 4. And so I did train them with this young. It is possible. And then we are a very low screen family. I would say no screens. We do no iPads, no tablets, no phones. But they are allowed to watch 1 hour of TV a day. So after their quiet time, they have earned then their 1 hour of TV time. I work that whole block. I work the 1 hour of quiet
Yeah.
time. I work the 1 hour of TV time. So you can even, if you work like an at home job, you can work for a few hours when your kids are home with them because your job as a homeschooler is not to entertain your children 24 hours a day. Like that's
Yep.
not the point of it. And I think a lot of people think that too of like, I've got to do all the things. I've got to be their entertainment. It's like, oh no, 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 no. You got to have
Yeah.
healthy boundaries, set them up for success, give them open-ended things, throw them outside for an hour. They're going to be totally fine. They're going to figure it out.
Yeah, see, I'm in the trenches of them being very little and
Yes.
needing to be
I was
eyes
there.
on 24/7, or else one
Yes.
will literally be jumping off of a bookcase and
Yep.
someone will die. There's a lot of moms that do mom shaming for outsourcing or having help. I have help because I want to work, but I want to homeschool. So I have somebody help me every day for 3 hours. And that's when I
That's
do my
wonderful.
heads down, don't bother me, either podcast, Basecamp Ed meetings. And then because I am trying to start my own business, you probably already know you see some weird times that I email. It is usually 3 to 4 hours a night too for me. But the goal eventually is to be you and only have to do 4 max hours a day. but
Exactly, which is
but
the
yes,
beginning of my business too. I was working hours in the
yeah,
morning and hours at night, and I was
yeah,
sacrificing sleep, and I was sacrificing so much. And it's so ridiculous the idea of mom shaming because or like for out like having other childcare help because That's what we were literally made for as human beings. We were meant to live as a village. We were meant to live with other people helping raise our children. And sadly, now we don't live in a village, we live in cities. So that looks a little bit different. But what still is important is that our kids do need to understand other adults are safe, love us, and can take care of us. That's
Yeah.
really, really important. So it's actually an amazing thing that you do that with your kids.
Yeah. They don't like it. I have to, especially the little one, I have to
Oh,
hide
yeah.
because he's 2 and he screams if I leave, but it is what it is. And it's 3 hours of the day. Before I started base camp, and I was the mom that dropped the kids off at 7:59 and I picked them up at 5 and I was gone all day. And the burnout and the mom guilt that I started to feel. And I was pregnant with our third. And I'm like, I will literally work to pay for daycare after this third baby. At that point, it's not worth it because they're so close in age. And that was when I was like, something has to change. And so
Yes.
I feel like it's a good compromise that I'm like, you used to go to daycare for like 9 hours a day, dude. 3 hours is fine.
Yes, exactly.
You've answered all of my questions. I have my whole list here. You were so amazing to talk to. I am very excited that you came on. I feel like you have been such a good advocate of Base Camp Ed, finding community and resources. So I really appreciate you being here today.
Oh my goodness, it's such an honor to be on. I'm so excited to share about homeschooling.
I know, and now my new podcast, and you're one of my first guests. Like I said, you're my biggest cheerleader. I love it.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for listening and joining in.
This has been a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. If you made it all the way to the end, you are amazing. Thank you for listening and your support. Let's stay connected, and here are my tasks for you. Subscribe, like, and share on your favorite podcast app or on my website, basecamped.com. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Basecamp Ed App, and go download Basecamp if you haven't already. Leave a comment and spread the love.